With that, Jimena, maybe you can tell us a little bit about this initiative you've been leading internally and some of the insights you've encountered in your efforts to make sense of this data.
Yeah, so we look at very different types of data all the time. We have SCADA data that gives us, meter power, inverter power, met stations, like Armando said. So that gives us insight into the operations of the plant. But we also have data. For an example, is like who is the EOR? Who is the mechanical EOR?
And
What type
EOR,
of fuses?
EOR,
Engineer of record.
yeah, engineer of record,
Um,
yep.
so there's a lot more data that doesn't come from the SCADA that we're trying to capture. And earlier this year, Armando, tasked me with finding a better way to use this data and a better way to capture this data. And that's where Storm came to light. So myself and Juliet and Connor, my two interns for the summer, started thinking about all the different resources that we have for each site. And you know, in our team, different people that have different inputs into this data and how we would capture it all. So this tool is called Storm. It stands for
Mhm.
a site tool for optimized resource management. And essentially it starts with a form, with an input form that goes to the project engineers. So the project engineers are responsible for building the projects to spec and guiding all the technical discussions around that. So they're the ones who give us what inverter type it is, what module type it is, what tracker, what SCADA system, and like I said, who was the electrical EOR, who was the civil engineer, who was like all these different points that we get even before we have data for the plant. So they,
Is this collected in even before going live during the construction process?
yeah, because for example, we get different sets of as-built or drawings for the site. And
Yeah.
as-built are at the time of substantial completion. Once the EPC is done, you get the last set of electrical drawings. But then before that, there's the 30%, 60%, 90%. But we always know, early on, what is the equipment on site, what fuses we're going to use. And sometimes that changes. So Storm starts with an input form where they fill out all the information. And then the second layer would be the project manager or the construction manager. And they add, different things that came along the way. And they're the ones who actually have to input the last set of documentations and, verify that we have the weather stations working and that we have the Met layouts and that, they're kind of like supporting roles, but they're two different types of data inputs. And after that, the next person responsible would be the O&M manager. So the O&M manager inputs anywhere from, is there an O&M building? Do we have sheep on site? Do we have video cameras? So there's like different people who are responsible for different data at different times. So what we did at Storm is just collected it all. And we're able to use, the technical data, the admin data, so we know what portfolio the site belongs to. And then we also have the resources. And the resources can be internal or external. It can be anywhere from an electrical as-built, an inverter data sheet, but it can also be a third-party SaaS for like a drone flyover or a SCADA platform or a soiling station platform. I think there's a Fraxen soiling station. So we have links to all of that through a single tool called Storm. And it's Storm because it's a little bit funny because it's a storm of documents that we have to deal with sometimes. So it's really easy to just have them kind of consolidated in a single place. And then the last person who's ultimately in charge of maintaining this data is the asset manager. So yeah, that's
And
Storm.